Welcome back to Buying America. Today we're going to talk about confusions on a new sense, because I'm pretty sure we were talking about it yesterday. Confusions start when you are raised in your house, what you hear from your family.
Oh, 100%.
We discussed this very specific thing that can sound wrong to some people, that there's no way, no one has built their wealth by saving. Even though we talk to kids as if savings was the god of money, you know, like the main thing to do. So that's one small example of confusions. That being said, I want to know how you talk to your kids about the confusions that you detect, how you raise them in the sense of their relationship and their understanding of money.
Man, that's a really good question. So I'll tell you, there's no question that your mindset comes from your upbringing, right? I'm teaching my kids to, number one, understand what money really is, in that it's time, it's freedom, it's impact. It's not just some piece of paper. And to not trade your time for money, but to figure out in life how you create value. The other thing is I'm teaching them abundance. I'm gonna tell you a funny story. So this happened many years ago where my two sons were fighting over the last ice cream bar in our freezer.
Okay.
And I'm looking at these two going, are you guys really fighting over an ice cream bar? Do you really think there's like a lack of ice cream in this world? Anyhow, they went on and on and on. I said, here's what we're gonna do. Get in the car. Where are we going? We're going to the store. Okay. I went to the grocery store with my two boys and ended up buying cartons, literally filled up the cart with ice cream. And they're looking at me like, what is wrong with that? I'm like, guys, does it look like there's a shortage of ice cream here? You need to start thinking in abundance. Now, some people might look at that and think, oh, you're just like spoiling your kids. Like, that's so wasteful. Now, I was teaching them that anything that they desire in life will come with abundance. If you guys figure out how to create value, there's no shortage of anything. So the next time you think you're going to argue over something, just understand that there's an abundance of anything that you desire. There's no shortage.
Before we go through, I would love you to define what value means, because it can be something that people represent in their minds differently. So how would you define value?
No question. How much of an impact can I make on your life or anyone else's life? What problems do you have, or does anyone else have, that I can come up creatively with a solution? I'm teaching my kids, if you learn how to problem solve, if you can solve, we live in a world of confusion. We talk about that, right?
Yep.
We live in a world of confusion with a myriad of problems. And I've taught them that if you learn how to problem solve, if you can solve for problems, you will create tremendous value. Any of the greatest inventions that ever came to light were why? Because there was a problem and someone solved for that problem. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm like trying to teach, my kids. Focus more on what value can you create, as opposed to how much money can I make in an hour. Stop trying to trade your time for money and start trying to figure out and problem solve, how can you help the next person? That's what I'm teaching my kids.
And what's other lesson that you would say you try very specific to give on them? Because I know you have a contrarian thinking for many things.
I do.
And to say it in a way, you need to fight what they hear in the outside world, and you teach it yourself. So what's one thing that you have to make this fight against what the saying is out there?
Okay, so I'll tell you this interesting exercise that I kind of do with my kids. And initially my wife rolled her eyes going like, oh gosh. And sometimes my kids will roll their eyes going, all right, here's another lesson from dad, right? But they ultimately end up appreciating it, and they're like, Dad, we understand. And we appreciate that you taught us that. So one exercise that I went through is I was trying to teach my kids what is the difference between an asset and a liability, okay? An asset is something that is going to produce for you, and a liability is something that is not going to necessarily serve you. If anything, it takes away from you, right? So I went on, elaborated on what the difference was, and I said, here's what we're gonna do to all three of my sons. I said, I want you to take these like little yellow sticky pads, and I want you to go around our house. And I want you to attach these little sticky notes to all the different things that you see in this house. And you tell me if it's an asset or a liability. They first looked at me with like this strange look, like, are you serious, Dad? And I said, I'm absolutely serious. Okay, great. My one son puts a sticky on my computer. All right, why is that an asset? It's an asset, Dad, because it helps you like produce the value that you're talking about. Okay, awesome. Video games. My son puts a sticky. I go, what is that? And he goes, well, I wrote down liabilities. I know it's a liability. I can't tell you why it's a liability because I get enjoyment from it, but I know you're going to say it's a liability.
Okay.
I go, okay. Does it make you, does it educate you? Does it bring you value? Will it bring other people like ultimate like value in solving problems? He goes, okay, well, I guess I could say not necessarily, right? My other son, my eldest son, he went around his room, put stickies on all these different books. I go, you just need to select one book. He goes, no, because there's value in all different books.
Oh,
there's information in all these different books, Dad. So they're all assets.
okay.
So we kind of just went through that. You know, those are the types of things that I try and creatively come up with to not make it only like the words, but practical. Like let's execute this stuff.
I would love to. I really like your creativity because I know that if you talk to an adult, it's easier to explain this concept because they somehow have practice or have experienced what an asset is, what a liability is. They have accounts, they earn money, they spend money. But on kids, I'm pretty sure it's harder, and even considering the difference in ages. But I want to know your distinction because different authors have talked to this about differently. For example, the most purist cash flow guys would say not even the book is not an asset because it's not putting money in your pocket. So they kind of say if you cannot quantify how much cash flow is putting it, it's not an asset. I'm more of my perception is that there can be assets where you cannot quantify the cash flow it produces, but
sure.
You don't stop that doesn't take away the tag of it being an asset. So what are your thoughts on that? Are you more a purist, or do you agree that there are non-quantifiable assets?
There's no question that there's non-quantifiable assets. I would say that you can separate those conversations, right?
Okay.
From an investment standpoint, if you're monetarily investing in something, I would say that my definition of an asset is at the end of the month or at the beginning of the month, is it putting money in my pocket? Okay, so here's an example. You ask someone, is your house an asset or a liability? Probably like a high probability that they'll say that my house is an asset. I look at your house as a liability because at the beginning of every month, it's taking money out of my pocket. So if the definition of an asset for me is putting money in your pocket, then that's definitely not the definition, right?
Yeah.
But then there's the other side of the coin, which is the intangibles that we're talking about. You take a look at a book. One thing I've made clear, first we'll backtrack. I will not make my kids wrong for something, okay? I will have them explain why they look at certain things a certain way. And if done incorrectly, like we've talked about failures before, the question that I will ask them is, all right, so that didn't necessarily work out for you. What do you think you can do the next time? So it's not that what they did was like wrong or failed, but more so, all right, how would you change that the next time? What's something else that you could have done to maybe like improve on that, okay? So I will not make them wrong for what they're doing because I don't want their mind going to like failure and then ultimately quitting on something. I'm training their mind to think, okay, if it never worked out this way, then what other way could I do it?
And you're trying to remove the judgment of good or bad?
I'm trying to remove the judgment of thinking that if you do something one time and it doesn't work out, that it equates to failure and quitting. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to remove. Okay, but now let's take that and apply it to my son saying that this book is an asset. Okay. One can argue it's not an asset. I'm not going to make him right or wrong for it. He said it's an asset. Great. Tell me why it's an asset. Okay. His explanation of why it was an asset is there's a lot of information in there that can help me develop a way of thinking so that I can create this value that you're talking about, Dad. Okay, great. So that's his perspective of it. I'm not going to make him, which I do think is right, okay? And if there's anything I'm going to add, then I'll bring education into the fold and I'll say, that's awesome. Now, what I want you to keep in mind, though, is you've heard the saying that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
What I'm teaching my kids is it's awesome that what you've read in this book is very powerful. Knowledge is power, but there's a part of that equation or formula that's missing. And the part or equation that is missing is this. Knowledge is power when it's executed.
When applied, okay.
If it's not applied, if it's not executed, then you're wasting this knowledge.
Okay,
it doesn't equate to anything.
I would pretty much sum up that, and I really admire that you are not trying to build critical thinking on them, not trying to say what your dad says is right because he says it's right.
Totally.
You're trying to make them think, something that we're lacking in this generation, and that's where I want to go with my last question. What is your approach? What do you tell them on being critical on what they hear or see on social media, on TV outlets? That I know that you have your own particular opinion on the agendas that this kind of media is pushing. So how do you manage that on a so distractive and so noisy world that we're living right now?
Man, so easy to get consumed by distraction. And unfortunately, distraction is what then causes confusion and chaos, right? What I'm trying to teach my kids and what I would heavily encourage others to teach their kids is to, as part of the critical thinking, to be able to determine for yourself, don't just accept what one person has to say or any perspective, experience it for yourself. Go out there, apply it, see if it works for you. It's very easy, Diego, for me to tell you that doesn't work, or I don't agree with that ideology or that way of doing something. But then what you're doing ultimately is adopting my way of thinking. I would encourage you, just as I'm encouraging my kids, right? Go out there and experience it for yourself. So then ultimately you can determine, come to your own conclusion. So you don't have to take my word for it. I will guide them, but I also understand that part of learning in life is experiencing. You can experience for yourself, or you can learn through the experiences of others.
I was going to tell you that because I'm pretty much sure you know that way of thinking will guarantee that they will have, let's say it in a way, hard hits in life. They will, statistically, one of them is going to get a really hard hit, however you want to put it. And what do you think about this new parenting way of thinking that, oh no, let me try to save my sons from as many hits as possible, let me put them into this bubble where they're not running any risk, they won't get disappointed, they won't be bullied at any time, they won't be hurt at any time.
Yeah, I definitely don't agree with that. I think expose them to what the world is. This is what exists in the world. You don't want to shock them and one day have them exposed into this world that they have no idea exists. Expose them to it. Probably one of the best things that a parent can do And I like to say this even when we're giving our presentations, is be very thankful to the audience for listening. I think one of the best things that a parent can do is grant their children the ability to like listen. So I will tell my children, I will listen. It is imperative that like we guide and we educate and we impart our wisdom, but the more you make your child feel wrong or discipline them for something, the more they move away from the communication and the listening that you can grant them. It's so critical, especially in today's day and age where you get so much stuff on social media, is listen to your children. And if you're too judgmental or critical of it, then they won't even give you the right or the ability to listen. So the one thing I've said to my kids, I grant you guys the permission to communicate with me and not cast judgment on you. I'm going to tell you what my opinion is, and sometimes you guys might not agree, but I'm granting you guys the permission to communicate anything that it is that you desire, and I'm here to guide you and impart my wisdom. But then I want you to take that and go out into the world and experience it and see it for yourself so that you know whether this fits who you are as a person or not.
Very interesting. And let's say if your kids came today and told you that you can only give us one last piece of advice, business related, not for life, because I know that depends, but this is the last business related advice you can give them, what would you tell them?
Time is precious. Time is precious. Value the time that you have, and don't think that, what you hear a lot of parents say is their kids, let them enjoy their childhood. Yeah, that's fine. But at some point they're going to be exposed to what the world is.
Yeah.
Right? So I want my kids to know what the world is now and be prepared for it. So that's what I would say.
I really like the different approach. I thought, I was expecting something different. I really like the different approach, and that's why I say you are really contrarian, because you always have different takes on things. I mean, someone would have said, watch out for who you do business with, or I don't know. But you talked about time, which is, I think between this distraction, we have ignored other ways of measuring success, and everything is results, money, and even bluffing.
Yeah, and I think that, I'll sort of conclude by saying this. I've seen a lot of young people today that are, whether they're in their teens or 20s or even late 20s, and it's like, all right, it's the weekend, time to party, time to go and enjoy myself. And not until they have a family and certain responsibilities and obligations are they like, whoa, man, I need to start like figuring things out in life. And I'm preparing my kids. We talk about the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret. Man, you know what? Earn that right to be able to enjoy life later on in life. Like, now. Earn it now. Do the things that you need to do so that you're not at the mercy of being 50 or 60 and scrambling and trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how do I sustain like life? Nah, you do what you do now and you'll create ultimate freedom for the rest of your life.
Interesting. Well, thank you, Joe, for today's episode. We're still buying America.